I can't. Oh, geez, stuff. You're old. Stuff. I just You're not. But it takes
You want me to
time.
shoot these backpacks? What was it you free?
Right. Are we? Oh, there's a lot of lag. I think, are we? Oh, boy. Why am I feeling so this?
Let me shut the mic.
Somebody has a.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, we're good to go. Perfect. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to acknowledge that the Wilfrid Laurier University Students' Union is located on the Haldimand Tract, which is the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee people. This territory was given to the Six Nations of the Grand River in 1784. Of the 950,000 acres given, only 46,000 acres remain Six Nations land. We'd like to thank these peoples for the continued use of their land and commit ourselves to learning, building relationships, and acting in solidarity with the Indigenous peoples of Canada. I will now proceed into the regrets. Thank you all directors for showing up. Today, Director Phillips submits his regrets. Can I have a motion that the Board of Directors adopt the agenda as presented? Director Spizzeri, do I have a seconder? Director Baldinelli. And we'll now go into voting in reverse order as we did last time. Any in opposition? Any abstentions? All in favor? Okay, motion passes 0 to 0 to none. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare tonight? Okay, as I see none, we'll move to the comments from the chair and CGO. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for all showing up today and participating in our board training session. I am looking forward to our discussion today during our open and our in-camera meetings. The only thing that I have to share with the board is, please continue to be engaged, and I look forward to your questions and comments during our discussions. Does anybody have a question to raise on my comments? Perfect. As I see none, we will now move to the comments from the president and CEO.
Awesome, thank you. So a couple of things I want to chat about. So first and foremost, so I will be attending a retreat on Friday with the finance and administration team. So it is with Lloyd's team, who reports directly to Deb McClatchy. So that's super exciting. Anytime we get to tell other departments about Students Union, we will take it and run. So that's really exciting. As well as OE planning is going super strong. Kind of, I guess, the biggest thing I would say on our plates right now in terms of like scope. So we've been confirming some contracts and making payments for different performers, which is really exciting. We're currently in the middle of a hiring panel for an internal position. So one of our directors is going on maternity leave. So we are in the middle of conducting those interviews. On another hiring panel, I just finished one with the student affairs team for a manager of communications role, which has a lot of ties to us, I would say, because they communicate with students on what I would say a regular basis, and so do we. So that's exciting. A couple of my VPs just got back from a conference with a bunch of other universities. It's always good to collaborate and hear from other schools. And then the only other thing, which kind of ties into the other topic for myself, but I may not be present at the next board meeting if I have any flight issues on my way back. But if I will not make it, I will be sending my VP, who I will talk about in like 5 minutes. So I won't get into that too much, but yes, that is it. Is there any questions I can answer?
Any questions for the president and CEO? Okay, perfect. Oh, wait, hold on. Director Corey, did you want to say something? Yeah, I see it now. We have a hand from the Brantford boardroom. Yeah. You're muted.
Yeah, like 3 different ways too. Would this be the right time for questions on the board report, or would you like to wait for later?
Yeah, this is a good time.
Okay. I just had a question on the VPGSR. Or, yeah, the VPGSR. First of all, I want to say congratulations on her appointment. I just wanted to follow up with that kind of, is there any kind of expectation of a conflict of interest between those roles, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for context, so the Vice President of Government Stakeholder Relations was elected as President of the Ontario Undergraduate Student Alliance. So Ian can jump in if I miss anything, but essentially every VP of GSR or whatever they call it at their respective universities sit on what we call the steering committee, and she's now the president of kind of that organization. In terms of conflicts of interest, there isn't any. I would say actually the opposite. It's a great opportunity for our organization. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ian, but we haven't had an USA president in couple years. But it presents a lot of opportunities for us to have more of a say at that table and what policy changes can be made at university level. So I would say, Ian, I don't know if you want to add anything, but no conflicts of interest. In fact, the opposite, is super great opportunity for us. So we are very happy with the outcome of that for sure.
Any further questions or comments from the Brantford boardroom?
Nope, I'm good.
Perfect. I just had a quick follow-up. How will we be ensuring that our institutions are independent of each other, even though we are cooperating? Because that's really important.
Do you mean the students union at
Yes,
USA?
yes.
I'm going to turn to Ian for that one because he's the expert.
So basically, the Ontario Undergraduate Student Association, Student Alliance, excuse me, is advocacy lobbying organization that we participate in. So all Laurier students pay a provincial advocacy fee, and part of that fee is used for our membership. So basically, you think about everything that what we do from an advocacy standpoint, anything that is provincially jurisdiction related gets amplified by USA. So USA sets its advocacy priorities through a series of general assemblies that restricts what USA is able to lobby on, not us. So we gain advocacy strength by through that collective organization that now represents, I believe, 9 universities. So it's a massive way to leverage the power of a collective voice, but it doesn't limit us from any kind of advocacy work that we want to do that's not under that USA umbrella. So it's a value add in all sense. It's not similar to how the president of the university may serve as chair of the Council of Ontario Universities.
Right.
That's it.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions for the president and CEO? Okay, perfect. As I see none, we'll proceed into the comments from the executive director and chief operating officer.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add other than what was presented, but there are a few things. The comprehensive salary review project is underway. We have our next series of meetings starting next week. Thankfully, we have in-person meetings for the first time, which will be really exciting to kind of meet the people who are working on that project for us. They've reviewed all of our job descriptions, all of our salary related policies, etc. So now we're moving on to phase 2 and having kind of interviews with some key stakeholders within our organization to kind of get a better understanding of how it all fits together. And then we've also presented a list of other organizations that we would like them to take a look at to kind of use as comparators. So we're pretty excited with how that's kind of progressing. Also, as we will discuss a little bit later, we got pulled into a facilities discussion with regards to some upgrades to the Fred Nichols Campus Center that have been deemed mandatory. We've also been developing some hospitality conversations, also to be discussed a little bit later with regards to some options for our Brantford campus, which we're actually really looking forward to. As a result of both of those things, we've been in quite a few financial conversations about what we have held in reserve and what we may need to do above and beyond that. Myself, Megan, President Megan Spindler, and Vice President Sarah Brophy will be in the Student Affairs Advisory Council tomorrow for the first time with that group. So we're really looking forward to that agenda. We met with Deb McClatchy this morning and had a productive conversation about some of our priorities as we work through the summer. We also met with the VPA's office and had a direct conversation with Darren Thomas. And he's actually really eager to work with us as an organization. So it's one of the things that I want to kind of coordinate both with the board as well as the operational side about doing a land acknowledgement workshop so that we can kind of all develop a more personalized land acknowledgement for each person that does the land acknowledgements. So it's a little less performative than it has been over the last little while. I did notice that you kind of went off of script a little bit today. So I really did enjoy that you're trying to twist it and make it a little bit fresher and more relevant. So that's a great first step. And then we are scheduled, I believe, for late July to have a staff retreat to a low ropes course down somewhere in Hamilton. Jason Verhoeven's been working on getting that booked up, but we're really excited as an operational team to kind of get everybody out of the office environment and down to Hamilton. And that's about it.
Okay, are there any questions or comments for the executive director and COO? Okay, I have a couple questions if that's okay. What are we, have we started planning? So I'll start with number one, or have we started planning sort of briefly the governance and operations retreat?
No.
Okay.
Won't do that without you.
Okay, perfect. I think that would be a good start. The second question would be in relation to infrastructure. How was your trial with the OWL?
So it actually got canceled by them. So we just went ahead and ordered them. So they're en route. I got notifications this past weekend that the cameras are en route. I know for a fact that it coordinates well with the technology that we have. So I have very few concerns at this time.
Okay, perfect. I have a question from the Brentford boardroom.
Yeah, I just, and I don't know if we might need to get kind of Chris to weigh in on this, but what is so paying off the demand loan, kind of what does that do with our finances and freeing up anything?
So essentially what that does is it frees up, if I remember correctly, and I can get you the specific number a little bit later if you want, but I believe it's something to the tune of $160,000 a year in debt repayments that can be reallocated elsewhere.
Perfect. Any follow-up questions?
Nope, yeah, ballpark figure's fine. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. This now moves us on to the executive succession plan by President Spindler.
Yeah, I guess we kind of already talked about this. But like essentially the point of the executive succession is that my absence won't impact the organization so that there's someone to step in. So obviously that's the Vice President Finance and Volunteer Operations, who is Sarah Brophy. Obviously, like I'll try to communicate my absences at board meetings. So I'll tell you guys right now, I'm gone from July 7th to 17th, which is why I might miss that board meeting, but hopefully not. So Mo, if you need to communicate with anyone in my absence, obviously you have Phil and Ian, but if you want to chat with Sarah, that is totally okay. And yeah, she will be kind of in charge when I'm gone. And I think that's all I have to say about this point.
Perfect. Are there any questions or comments on the president's update? I have one quick question. We have a question from the Brentford boardroom. Go ahead.
We going somewhere warm?
Yes, I'm going to Hawaii.
Oh,
In July.
Any other questions?
The warm might be an understatement.
Yeah.
I have one quick question. In terms of the pay equity, is your VP going to be getting acting pay during your time off?
Good question.
That's not typically and historically been our practice unless it's an extended period of time. So for the course of the vacation, we probably would not do that, no.
Okay,
Good question.
thank you. Okay, so this now moves us on to annual governance planning. So this is the part in which we discuss what sort of training we would like to do this year. If you could all please go look at GP2H. Oh, wait, where did it go? No. The annual governance plan, where's the?
Is it not the ownership linkage?
Oh, yeah.
committee?
No, no, ownership linkage committee update. I sincerely apologize. I skipped a big chunk. I sincerely apologize. So, as you'll see in the report, the ownership linkage committee was struck on June 10th of 2023 with the mandate of engaging with our membership. All directors were present. We've discussed a number of things, as you can see in our my brief. There are a couple of discussion items to have and 2 motions to consider. The first discussion that we like to have is more just again a general discussion. We would like the committee recommends to the board that we re-engage with our SU Does That campaign, something that has previously succeeded very well in engaging with students, whether it be through like YouTube videos, shorts on Instagram, and just like general posters and a general marketing campaign. The committee is looking for board input as to if there's interest in reanimating this campaign, and if so, how we would like to proceed doing so. So I'm going to open it up for discussion.
What do they do that the SU does that? Like what's kind of the?
So historically, the SU Does That campaign was very simple. Actually, I'll let the executive director explain.
Yeah, so when we went into COVID and everything was locked down, so the year that President Devin Kelly was in charge, ironically, the last year that we had a VP be the president of USA as well. We wanted to kind of create a campaign that kind of allowed students to really understand what it was that the Students' Union did, so that they could kind of create that sense of connection and community within the environment. It ended up being a pretty productive and reasonably successful campaign. It was largely kind of a passive thing, just kind of constantly reminding people. There was lots of posters, digital screens, emails, social media posts, as well as later on it was added to some of the swag or merch that we used to put out. And it literally kind of focused on all the things that the Students' Union does for students to try to kind of clear up some of the lot of misunderstanding that is out there.
Yeah, can I get some input from directors on if they'd be interested in reinstating this campaign and how you'd like to see that done? Director Sloan.
Yeah. So, I came in as a first year. It was actually, the SU Does That was actually kind of a noticeable campaign, specifically the Did You Know posters and some of the posts online. I saw those a lot, and that actually gave me a pretty cool understanding of what the Students' Union actually does on campus, because I think, like, to an outside perspective, it's a little bit vague. I think it's even a little bit vague as to what the board of directors does specifically to the general student body. So I think it's a great idea to even promote that a little further than it was before, and maybe reach it a little bit deeper into what we actually do.
Great, perfect. Thank you for your comments. Director Corey.
Yeah, I kind of want to follow up on what Director Sloan said, and it also kind of helps to not only expose us, but maybe generate some interest into what the board does. Because kind of our main form of exposure here is 2-3 hour long YouTube streams, which are dry is a statement. But yeah, like it provides a pretty good measure of kind of showing that we're students too. It's not just all kind of board meetings and everything. Well, I mean, to a certain extent it is, but we're a group of students who want to make the university and everything. We want to make a better experience for students, and so it kind of goes, I think, a long way to kind of in the eyes of the students, making kind of one student union where both the operational aspects and the governance aspects are kind of shown to students.
Okay, Thank you for your comments. I have a question from the gallery. Ms. Bailey?
Yeah, hi, sorry. I'm Bronte Bailey. I'm the editor-in-chief of The Cord. I definitely agree with everything you were saying, and I just wanted to add that as editor-in-chief, I would be happy in one of our print editions if you wanted to do a spread on the Students' Union and what you guys do, because I think that would probably help get the word out to students even more, especially those who pick it up while they are on campus for classes.
Perfect. Director Spitzer?
Yeah, so just kind of building off that. I know this is getting to be operational and not on a high level, but I think one thing we really have to communicate is using some of our kind of awareness budget to actually work with various clubs on campus, especially last clubs, particularly LMA and these advertising project ones, giving them an opportunity to have this sort of portfolio work, people who are interested in user design, interested in advertising, interested in marketing, giving them an opportunity to really take ownership over it. Once again, giving an opportunity to work with people, to interact with the student body, kind of, I think, really an interesting way to kind of once again to tie ourselves back a little bit closer. Just kind of raising that idea in terms of an overall direction as to how we might want to implement this to people who weren't necessarily on that aspect, but which are interested.
Right, and I mean, I'd like to further delve into some detail about this. I think that it would be a fantastic idea if we as a board kind of engaged with our clubs and committees that are maybe faculty based or otherwise that have that marketing experience to maybe give us some direction and help us create interactive content that will work well with our population. So if I could kind of get a general sense, does the board agree with reinstating an SU does that campaign with an emphasis on working with external partners that are still students to enact that? Can I get a yes, a thumbs up or something, just so I can kind of. Okay, perfect. So I think that will be the approach that the committee will further investigate when we meet in 2 weeks. Now on to another recommendation that we had. Oh, sorry, Director Mull.
Yeah, I might just recommend as a first step, setting up a meeting with Megan, just to kind of create the proper lines of communication for engaging the marketing department or the clubs department, whatever it may be, just to make sure that that gets all kind of cleared and Megan kind of can have some oversight into that process.
Absolutely.
Sidestep.
Yeah, we don't want to.
Should be utilizing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we don't want to take it with.
So what we'll do next is we'll the next time we engage as an ownership linkage committee, we'll send an invite to the president and CEO so that we can make sure that we are not overstepping any operational bounds and that we are operating in the way that operations would like that to do. We will now move on to the second discussion portion, which is a recommendation from the committee to revamp Laurier Votes into the Instagram page into an SU directors page, or the SU board of directors page. This would require a motion in order for that to happen. But I'd like to start off with the discussion on this item first.
Just to give some more detail of stuff that we talked about in the committee meeting, also sort of to base off of what we just talked about, just to really get much more involved in the marketing of the board. So to have a dedicated page for us and to advertise for elections when it comes to that time later in the year, and any other ownership linkage activities that would be going on throughout the year, just to have that space and to develop marketing strategies through that specifically.
Something else that I'd probably add is that if we're to kind of rebrand it as such, we could probably create content where it's like a day in the life of a director attending a meeting, or for example, we could do a day in the life of a vice chair, because preparing for meetings, It's a hard one, yeah, sure. We do have a question from, or a comment from the Brantford boardroom, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, not more comment than question, but also kind of just to dissuade any fears that might come up. It's not like a full scale, or it is, but it's not gonna kind of minimize what the Laurier Votes page can do. Like the same content can be posted and be put under the banner. And as well, kind of cross-posting between operations and governance on Laurier Votes, I think could probably be more effective and instead of less.
Director Squizzer?
No, I was just more thinking along the lines of that day in the life. I don't know how viable that would be considering. Yeah, I just don't know how much we flush that out. The one that you see days like, oh, a work one,
Right,
they always gloss over the actual work part.
right,
And do we really think you want to be looking at like the different memorandum sections? Like
fair,
90% of what we would be doing would be non-board directly related elements.
right,
And so it's just very tough to implement.
fair enough, and that's a very fair point.
That's too specific.
Yeah, but I was just giving like a.
Yeah.
An idea I gave up on
Yeah.
the spot, so, all right, is Director Sloan?
Just like instead of the day in the life thing, I think during the ownership and linkage committee, we had suggested that maybe some like alumni features of past board of directors and some of their experiences and how how their experience on the board of directors may have led them to the positions that they're in now in their workplace. That might want to elicit a little more interest from students who are looking, for a great extracurricular opportunity and to understand a little bit more about what we do and how that will like benefit them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I know of at least one previous chair that specifically told me that his experience on the board and also being chair that helped him, find a very good job. So I think that that's a very good point. Can I have a motion on the table to rebrand to rebrand the Laurier Votes Instagram for full purpose board of directors? Do I have a motion on the table? Director Baldinelli, do I have a seconder? Director Spitzeri? Okay, we'll, one last round of questions. Is there anybody that has any questions or would like to discuss this matter further?
So I'm not sure, maybe I might have missed, or I wasn't familiar with the fact that we were doing the entire, so Laurier Votes is apparently get out to vote
Yes,
page, and we're rebranding that to just your board of directors.
to be the board of directors that also does the promotions for our elections. So it'll be a dual purpose thing.
Do we think that is the best use of that resource, which I think it's pretty critical that we have a dedicated get out to vote one. I understand it's tough to get it in government running and we want to have some sort of visibility. But do we really think that's the best use of what is probably a pretty valuable resource to be focused on one goal, which is critical, getting people to vote?
That's a fair question. Director Corey?
It might be worth also kind of envisioning it as not exactly kind of Laurier SU Board of Directors, but more so Laurier Governance, which in of itself kind of underpins Laurier Votes is kind of a subset of SU Governance.
Thank you for that comment to Executive Director Shen.
Yeah, I'm struggling with this conversation a little bit because I've sat through versions of this conversation over many years over the years. I'm curious if it might be worth having a conversation with some of the folks on operational, like the marketing folks, to see what kind of opportunities and what things they see have actual leverage and views and links and follow throughs and all that, and actually develop with the board a comprehensive kind of plan as to what it is that you're trying to achieve and kind of scheduling that out so that we don't necessarily lose the momentum of what Laurier Votes did, for example, and just kind of how does it all kind of build off of each other.
Right.
And it doesn't feel, based on the conversation that I'm hearing, that you've thought it through to a point, but I think there's another few levels that you can take.
Yeah, I'm totally aligned with that. It feels like we don't truly know, like we've got very valuable asset, don't mess with it, understand what we actually want to do. And I think utilizing some of those we do have, if we can get some of those resources, I think that'd be awesome to kind of flesh out this, actual operational level.
Perfect. So I'd like to propose an amendment to the motion that we discussed, that we, I guess, push this current motion to the next board meeting while the ownership linkage committee meets with our operational marketing staff. Can I get a seconder on this motion, Director Spitzeri? Okay, any other discussion on the amendment? Director Wong.
Just that you could probably set up one single meeting with Megan and Megan
Yes.
Spindler and knock a couple of these topics off at the same time.
Absolutely, so that is the intent of the motion, so, okay, any other discussion on the matter for this motion? Okay, we'll go into voting, all those, against? Any abstentions? All those in favor? All those in favor? Oh, yeah, the motion passes 0 to 9, so that we just passed the amendment, we now have to pass the original motion, is that correct, Ian?
Sorry,
We just passed an amendment to the, original.
so then you would need to vote on the.
Yes, so now we need to
The
vote.
amended motion.
So now we need to vote on the amended motion, okay. So any discussion on the motion as amended? Okay, perfect, as I see none, we'll go into voting, all those against? Any abstentions? All those in favor? The amended motion passes 0 to 9. Thank you for that. The last thing that we would like to discuss from our committee meeting was a mentorship style program to attract visibility to the board, as well as to kind of elicit that interest in individuals running for the board next year. The committee kind of discussed like a semi-formal approach to this end. Can I have somebody from our committee to extend this further? So go ahead, Director Corey.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to kind of provide some clarity on that. It's not, it's a little bit unofficial in the sense that the board can't support candidates. But it would sort of act as kind of a way to, kind of as we've discussed throughout, it would act as a measure of kind of introducing people to the board, what it does, kind of promoting, hey, here's what the board does, here's what's part of the public agenda. As a student, what are your thoughts on it? As someone who might be considering joining the board next year, kind of what are your thoughts with it? And like, again, it's not anything official and it's not implying support, and there would need to be steps taken to kind of put down policy or kind of rules to prevent it from being seen or used as a way of implicitly supporting candidates. But it kind of at its core, it would be a way of just introducing people to the board and kind of increasing their knowledge and understanding of what the board does in kind of fulfilling their interest of joining the board in an upcoming year.
Right, and
Succinct.
if I could add that by formalizing this process, it would make it a much more transparent and fair process. I mean, I know that in previous years and currently there is sort of an informal mentorship process that current directors have taken and continue to take in kind of mentoring students that are interested in board affairs and would like to discuss things that are open to the public. So I feel like if we create a more formal structure, this would make it a much more transparent and equitable experience for students. So are there any questions on this recommendation from the committee? Okay, perfect. We will now move into voting. Can I get a motion on the table that the board recommend to the committee that we further discuss a mentorship program and to build up a guidelines and programs for that. Yeah. Vice Chair Rubinoff, can I get a seconder on the motion? I'll take Director Corey. Perfect. Any other discussions on this matter before we proceed into voting? Okay, perfect. As I see none, we'll go into voting. Any in opposition? Any abstentions? All those in favor? The motion passes 0 to 9. This concludes our ownership linkage committee update. We will now move into the annual governance planning. If directors can please open up GP2H on their policy manual so that we can have a discussion on this matter. GP2. Oh, it's not.
It's not an origin, maybe I have to find it. in the-
Yeah, you have to find it in the manual. There we go, GP2H. So, as the policy reads, the board will follow an annual agenda that completes the examination of the board policies and consistently improves board performance through board education. The board will compile an annual agenda that will conclude each year on the last day of April so that administrative planning and budgeting can be based on accomplishing 1-year segment of the most recent statement of long-term ends. It'll include, but not limited to the following. Okay. So this part of the discussion, if I've read this correctly, Ian, we'll be discussing whom we would like to invite to the board for discussions.
Yeah, just a preliminary discussion of who you may want invited, recognizing that you don't want to overschedule. There may be some things that come up that will require some flexibility. Some people may not have availability. So just, you know, a couple ideas of some people that you might, and then we can do some work with in terms of contacting them and seeing whether they're available.
Executive Director.
Yeah, it's also worth noting that we know based on years past, like we're gonna see the USA is gonna come and do a presentation again. And I know that we had an initial conversation last year with Eric Melton from sustainability, and the board last year was very enthusiastic about bringing them back and kind of discussing and seeing where their updates are on their strategic plan. So there are pseudo commitments already.
Yeah. I'd like to bring forward to the board a couple of different ideas for consideration. The first would be what is currently acting Brantford Senior Executive Officer in the university, Beth Gurney, to come and give us a short discussion on some of the infrastructure improvements that they're seeing on the university side. I think this would be of importance, especially considering that Brantford is a campus that is comparatively underdeveloped to Waterloo. The second recommendation would then be to also invite the director of the special constables. A discussion that we've had last year in camera and also in public was in regards to campus safety. So I believe that it would be worthwhile to invite them to come and give us a report on what they are seeing in terms of campus safety issues on both campuses. So those are my recommendation. I'd like to open it up to hear recommendations from other directors in terms of whom they'd like to. Director Corey, please go ahead.
Sorry, Phil, did you have a question or?
No, that's fine. I can add on after.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was thinking kind of three, so I know we've had conversations about the Indigenous Center, and so kind of definitely bringing them on board, and if they have the bandwidth to do it, then kind of having a presentation on that. On a personal note, I've reached out to the Indigenous Center and kind of asked for what I can do. And what I can bring to the board, but definitely having them have a full kind of conversation seems worthwhile.
Yeah, in the conversation that we had with Darren, he was very enthusiastic again about that training session, but also the potential of presenting their strategic plan that they've developed, which is really, really thorough and an excellent document that we can definitely share with the board as soon as tonight, if need be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If I could just add to the brief conversation, I believe that it would be worthwhile to invite the mayors of the city of Waterloo and the city of Brantford, as they are longstanding, very invested stakeholders in which we. So I think that those would be other options that we should probably add. Back to you, Director Corey. Director Corey, do you have your hand up?
No, sorry, it was left up.
Yeah, so, well, how does, I'd like to hear other suggestions from other directors as well. In terms of who they'd like to see throughout the year. Directors for
I don't have any suggestions, but what would we particularly discuss with mayors of Waterloo?
Well, typically we would be discussing, you know, high level strategic plans on dealing with large gatherings, for example.
That'll be very topical, especially here in Waterloo, but there's also opportunity to discuss safety options in the communities, traffic, you know, all kinds of different options that you can talk to get people about. They'd be a great one, and trust me, you're gonna want to talk to the mayor of Waterloo.
No, I'm not saying I would want.
Yeah.
Yep. I have a hand at the Brantford boardroom.
I don't know, I was looking for a mute camera on the screen. I had the EDI office down, kind of following around the same reasons as the Indigenous office.
So that one I may put on the back burner a little bit because they are going through a lot of turnover currently. So we can definitely have them on the list. That's absolutely highly encouraged. But right now there's no AVP, ADI, there's an acting AVP. So they're in the process of kind of posting and hiring for that position. There's also no full-time manager for the Center for Student Equity, Diversity, Inclusion. So I would recommend kind of putting that one on the back burner as they get their ducks in a row so that the conversation could be a lot more fruitful.
Perhaps maybe scheduling it for maybe the winter.
For sure. Maybe even like mid to late fall. Like,
Okay.
I think there's opportunity there, but I know that right now they don't have that capacity. So.
Okay, perfect. And Director Spitzer?
Usually the special counsel service.
Sorry?
Special counsel. service.
Yes, oh, we have that down. So we would be bringing in the director of STS to come speak to us. Are there any other Director Mullins?
I would just say that as you're getting excited about all these options, keep that in mind when you're booking your meetings for the fall, because our likelihood of booking meetings with late evening board meetings gets challenging. So in the past, we've had more success having people out when we've had meetings that have been closer in line with, business hours.
Yeah, so that will be a big consideration for directors to keep in the back of their mind, as Director Muller just mentioned, that when we are looking to book meetings during the fall and winter, that we are operating at some point during regular business hours, and that we're able to invite those policymakers and stakeholders to come speak to us.
Yeah, on that note, just to confirm, I'm the only one that's not here. All right, so we'll be
Yes.
able to meet quorum regularly.
Yeah, so we'll be able to make quorum regularly, but we could probably figure out a way for you to remote if that's required.
Yeah, I it's also
Yeah.
percent.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So that kind of takes care of our annual governance planning. Onto the direct inspection committee elections. We have two policies that are set to be renewed or reevaluated. EL2A, the treatment of consumers. In order for the board to do their role correctly, the board must reference GP2B and to figure out how we will be doing that. Our governance staff has very thankfully highlighted the most important parts. That the committee, with a review process entailing the direct inspection committee of all policies. Each policy will be reviewed every 4 years in order to ensure that the evidence presented is appropriate and up to date, ensure that the wording of the policy is sound, and ensure that the scope of the organization is captured in the policy. So we'll start off with EL2A, the treatment of consumers. Do we have any nominations for this committee membership? Ian, if you could remind me, it's 3 directors per committee, is that correct? It's 3 directors plus a chair.
Yeah.
Plus the chair, right? Okay, perfect. So can I get nominations for 3 directors to sit on the EL2A policy direct inspection committee? Any nominations? No nominations? Then I will start nominating. Director Scuzzeri, would you like to stand for election on this committee?
I'm going to abstain just due to my heavy workload in the fall and my desire to.
This would be before the next
Oh, okay, absolutely, yes, right. This is
So-
the committee for the.
meeting. No, there's not a thing. So directed inspection committees are committees struck between board meetings to inspect and update and bring recommendations to the board to review policies.
I thought this would be a scan.
No, this is not a thing.
Position, but the entire
No.
time to manage that policy and it's.
No, this is.
Ideally finance, I didn't want to that third.
No, this is just a direct inspection committee. So, Director Sloan,
This might be an ignorant comment. Sorry. What does the committee do?
so as I just mentioned before, if you reference GP2B, the role of the committee is to ensure that the evidence is presented is appropriate and up to date. Ensure that the wording of the policy is sound, and ensure that the scope of the organization is captured in the policy. So basically look at the policy, make sure that it's up to date. It is relevant to our organization. It is easily understandable and encapsulates the whole purpose of that policy. So that's the role of the committee, and then produce a report with amendments or none to the board to consider. Director Russo.
So it's just one meeting that we have to go to, or is there
Yes.
multiple?
No, it's one meeting in between board meetings.
In
Typically.
between each board meeting, or?
So it's just one board meeting before the next board meeting.
Oh, okay,
So it's one committee meeting before the next board meeting.
okay, I could do it then, I could be on it.
So will you stand for election?
Yes,
Okay, perfect. So we have Director Russo and Director Scuzzeri. Do you have a question?
Yeah, so just to confirm, we'll be reviewing EL2A and GP.
No, EL2A only. So each policy has its own committee. So do you still stand?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect.
For EL2A.
For EL2A.
Correct, yes.
We have a hand from the Brantford board.
Yeah, I have one thing of context and one nomination.
Yes.
Just the context side is typically DICs only have 1 to 3 meetings usually. It's very much look at the policy, does it meet it? Like they're not long-standing committees typically. And then secondly, I nominate Director Ellis.
Okay, Director Ellis, do you stand?
I do.
Okay, perfect. We now have 3 directors. Are there any other nominations? to this direct inspection committee? Okay, perfect. As I see none, are they just automatically claimed or do we have to go through a?
Still need to elect two.
Okay, so can we have a motion on the table that the board of directors elect Director Spitzeri, Director Russo, and Director Ellis to the EL2A Direct Inspection Committee? Vice Chair, motions, do we have a seconder on the motion? Director Baldinelli seconds the motion. We will now enter voting. Or any discussion on the matter? Perfect. We will now move into voting. All those against? All those abstaining? All those in favor? Okay, the motion passes 0 to 9. We will now do the same. Director.
I just have a question and maybe a favor to ask. I don't know how many of our Senate candidate guests are actually here. But would it be worth flipping the agenda to kind of go through the Senate election process?
So you are correct. We are quite late. Can I have an amendment to, can I have a motion on the table to amend the board of directors agenda to now proceed into the Senate election before moving into the GP2. Okay, GP2A Direct Inspection Committee. Can I have a motion on the table? Director Spitzeri, can I have a seconder on the motion? Director Sloan, Director Hamilton, sorry. Any discussion on the matter? Any objections? Any abstentions? All those in favor? Okay, perfect. The motion passes 0 to 9. We will now move into we will now move into the Senate applicant election portion of the meeting. So it is my understanding that in order for us to elect elect students to be senators onto the table, we will have a election on the at the board. The meeting or the election will proceed as follows. Each candidate will have a maximum of 3 minutes to give a campaign speech. After all candidates have completed, we will then enter into a brief question and answer period between directors and anyone in the gallery to ask specific or all candidates questions. So those will, after the discussion portion is ended, we will then move into a secret ballot vote in which the first past post system will be used to elect senators to or elect students to the Senate. And there are 2, or is it 3?
There's a single.
Okay, there's a single position available, and we will start. Okay, perfect. So we will start the campaign. I will go by alphabetical order on a first name basis. So if Anna would like to speak, if Anna's here and would like to speak to the board, please. And Anna Kutierova. Okay, the candidate is not here. We'll proceed on to the next candidate. Brian Brady.
Hello.
Okay, perfect. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Brady, and I'm very happy to be considered as an applicant for the position of senator. I would like to take the opportunity to tell you a bit about myself, as well as why I believe I will be a great asset to the Laurier Senate in the future. I am entering my 4th year here at Laurier as a double major in political science and history. Since my first year, I have been active within the Laurier community, having held a number of leadership and executive positions throughout my time. These positions include being the current co-president of the Association of Political Science Students, vice president of operations for Laurier Moot Court, as well as being one of the future student representatives of the Department and Council for Political Science this upcoming fall. By being co-president of APSS and the GIC student representative, I've had the opportunity to work closely with faculty within the political science department in coordinating academically oriented events to engage the student body. It has also allowed me a greater understanding of how departments are structured within Laurier and how they make the decisions that they do, as well as helping plan last year and this year's Hawks Cup for Laurier Moot Court. This has also given me the opportunity to coordinate an event with over 100 attendants and how to work with a large group of people in order to create a complex but ultimately successful event. I have also developed skills in how to interact and build connections within the greater Laurier community at large. I will use these skills as a way to build both communication and reflect the wants of the Laurier student body, but also use these skills to build greater connection between the Senate and that student body, with the goal of engaging more students to become actively engaged political thinkers at Laurier. I hope to facilitate this connection by providing more direct communication for Laurier students, specifically with the option of them reaching out to me or potentially other senators with their concerns coming forward. I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Brian. I appreciate your time. We will now move into the second candidate. The second candidate would be Alicia Felician. Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Hello, my name is Alicia Felician, and I am a 3rd-year Law and Society student. I am deeply honored to be considered for this opportunity. I'm grateful to share with you my vision for a bright and progressive university community, based on both Laurier's vision and mission statements, as well as my experiences as a student. Firstly, I will be committed to promoting excellence in teaching and research. I think personally, I have been interested in publishing papers in Laurier's undergraduate journals, although they are not active or promoted. I aim to revive this to inspire students to go further and inflame their curiosity. I will also advocate for support for research endeavors for our faculty and students, to give them an opportunity to develop their scholarship and curate their curiosity in their fields, and eventually promote Laurier as a strong competitor. Additionally, I will work to earnestly enhance academic experience for our students, advocating for innovative teaching methods and mentorship programs and more experiential learning opportunities to help us better prepare for the modern world. As an active member of the Sputnik, one of Laurier's student publications, I have been privy to the opinions of students on both campuses regarding their inability to connect with one another. And I hope to bridge or alleviate this gap by affording students on both campuses the opportunity to pursue subjects and courses found on other campuses, thereby establishing more intercampus exchanges and opportunities. And finally, as a member of the Senate, I would like to curate an academic experience that embraces diversity and collaboration. As an international student, I have noticed many of my colleagues leaving for other institutions to pursue courses to better meet their needs. I also used to be a journalism student, and this program has been canceled. And through my experience, I would like to modify and expand curricula to fit our modern needs for students to garner experience while boosting student morale and engagement and attracting and retaining more students. And thank you for your time and consideration. And I kindly ask that you support me in my election. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We will now move on to Al D'Souza.
Hi, can you hear me clearly?
Okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elle D'Souza, and I'm a soon-to-be fourth-year student studying international education studies, and I'm interested in running for the student senator position. Participating in Laurier's Senate aligns with my interests, and I've learned about governance through various courses, and I plan to pursue law after graduating. I also believe that I have the skills to successfully represent the voice of Laurier's student body. So let me tell you a bit about myself and my past experiences. If elected for the position, I will provide valuable and strategic opinions to contribute to conversations at Senate meetings. Throughout my time here at Laurier, I've had the opportunity to be the VP of events for my program student association club called the ISSA for the past 2 years. Through this experience, I've mastered organization, am able to coordinate with multiple people at a time, and I'm also very comfortable with public speaking. I've excelled in this position and am currently the appointed president of this club. And since my presidency, I've had to make strategic and appropriate adjustments to the club, which has prepared me to be a part of the collaborations that I would participate in if I were selected as student senator. In addition, I've also worked as a supply teacher and a tutor, so I'm comfortable voicing my opinion and participating in leadership activities, which is needed in this role. What sets me apart from others is that I thrive in challenging and dynamic environments. I'm constantly seeking opportunities to grow and challenge myself, and I believe that this trait allows me to foster lots of creativity and think outside of the box. An example of this is when I completed an internship at an insurance company this last summer. I wanted to gain a new array of skills outside of my typical education experience, and I was able to adapt to a new environment and a field of work. I was able to learn new and unfamiliar jargon, standards, and ways of business in a matter of weeks, which demonstrates my capability of learning fast and adjusting quick. I've also obtained a GPA of 10.65, which demonstrates my hard work ethic throughout studying here at Laurier. I believe that I have the skills to voice the student body's opinion, and I'm a very reliable individual. Thank you all for considering my application, and I hope to work with all of you in the future.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Elle. We will now be moving to Emily Belitosis. Belciotis, is it, did I say it right?
Belciotis. It's a long one.
Sorry. Go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Emily Belciotis, and I'm going into my 3rd year as a political science student. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. The Senate is essential to Laurier's academic rules and processes that ensure the institution provides the highest quality of education. And I'm so grateful to be here both as a student and a Senate applicant. I wanted to share some of my experiences that I believe are relevant to this position. This past year, I joined the Laurier Model United Nations, also known as the MUN team. This experience developed my problem-solving skills and helped me think on my feet in a very fast-paced setting. I was the only best delegate winner for the 2022-2023 school year on behalf of the Laurier team. For the past 2 years, I've been an executive member on the Arts Undergraduate Society. I was a first-year liaison and coordinated further education and career panels for art students, trying to engage them when school was still online. I conducted polls to better understand the needs of art students and how we could support them as they look for work and academic opportunities post-grad, which cumulated to a successful law panel. I'm currently the grant fund director, ensuring that clubs can access grants to plan academic, professional, and social events to enrich our community. I believe that this previous experience of collaborating with other team members to make the best decisions for the Laurier community will be especially relevant to this role if selected. The most significant experience I've had at Laurier so far has been my job as an educational assistant for Laurier's Accessible Learning Center. I would ensure that the students' learning plan was followed as they wrote their exams. I'm confident that advocating for their best interests of other students has prepared me for Senate. These extracurricular and work experiences in the Laurier community have allowed me to problem solve and adapt quickly when presented with new information and see issues from different stakeholders' perspectives. These experiences gave me opportunities to collaborate with others and advocate for others, which I hope to continue on the Laurier Senate using academic policy as a tool to do so. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you so much for your comments. Really appreciate it. We will now move to Makita Kiefel-Green.
Everyone, can you hear me over there?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Hello all, and thank you for taking the time to consider me as part of the Laurier Senate. My name is Makita, and I'm a third-year health studies student here on the Brantford campus. Over my 3 years, I've taken in various experiences as a student, some positive, some negative. Overall, being a Laurier student has been rewarding and has given me the opportunity to explore my likes and dislikes, as well as shaping university careers to my liking. If I were to join Laurier Senate, I would bring my leadership skills, student perspective, and diverse mindset. 2 committees that I have interest in are academic planning, as well as teaching and learning. The following are my thoughts and ideas on each committee. In terms of academic planning, some ways the courses are structured do not meet students' needs. It is common for students to become overwhelmed with course content, which can lead to poor grades if they do not feel comfortable reaching out for help. Everyone learns differently, but in most cases, when there is consistent testing of knowledge throughout the term, it gives students the opportunity to better understand the coursework as well as reach out for help, compared to having one large test at the end of the term where students are expected to recall detailed information from months ago. There's also added stress when there's a heavy amount of weight put onto the mark of these final tests. In my opinion, final projects give students the chance to take their time in preparing a creative outlook of what they've learned over the academic term while being able to ask for assistance if need be. In terms of teaching and learning, besides having a good structured coursework, how it is taught to students is equally as important. Upbeat and approachable professors are essential in making a positive learning environment. Some students, especially first years, do not feel comfortable asking for help due to worry that their professor will react negatively towards them. This again leads to students struggling with course content and having poor academic performance. Making it clear from the first day of classes that professors are open to feedback and questions makes all the difference in students' confidence and willingness to approach their professors. There is also a need for more diverse staffing. As a Black student, it is important for me to have Black scholars as role models. I've been in university for 3 years and I've never had a Black professor. When discussing this topic with other students of color, they have shared that they have the same feelings and would appreciate more diverse professors. Having diverse guest speakers is excellent and informative, but it is not the same as consistently having a professor of color lead you to academic success. In conclusion, although I enjoy what being a Laurier student entails, I believe there is room for adjustment and alteration for all Laurier students. Thank you for considering.
Thank you so much, Michaela. We will now, we will now move to Marwan Asayed. They're here. Not here. Okay. Shreya Dalal. Oh, okay, perfect. So this ends our candidate statements portion. We will now move into general question and answers. I believe the fairest way in order to do that would be to ask for a board director to ask a question to the candidates, and then candidates will have 1 minute to answer with a 15-second warning. Are there any questions that directors would like to ask our candidates as they are here? Good. We have a question from the Brantford boardroom.
Yeah, so a big part of the Senate is ensuring sort of the academic quality at Laurier. And part of that would require kind of an institutional knowledge of the organization, as well as how the Senate operates within it. I was just looking from the candidates to see kind of how they rate their current understanding of the Senate as an organization within Laurier and how they would aim to improve that.
Perfect. I will move from alphabetical order, like I've done before, and then I'll go to each candidate, and each candidate will get 1 minute. So I'll go with Brian. Your question.
Thank you for your question. I really appreciate it. I find with Laurier Senate, it has a great way of furthering and the potential of furthering student interaction amongst the larger faculty as a whole. But I believe that kind of going off of how we were asked our understanding, I believe that many Laurier students don't really have an understanding of what the Senate is within their own jurisdiction. They might have an awareness that it exists every time an election comes around. But in their day-to-day lives, many Laurier students don't know that they can reach out to the Senate to request certain classes, to request the way that they would like their educational futures to be structured. I have a great deal of friends who are within the history department, and many of their classes have somewhat changed and morphed, and they would love the opportunity to kind of shape that possibility. So building that connection would be important.
Okay, perfect. We'll now move to Alicia.
Okay, so I wanted to agree firstly with what the last candidate said. A lot of students don't really know that we can be part of the Senate. We have a very official understanding of what it is. But me personally, the Senate is just one arm of governance in the university, largely responsible for making decisions concerning academic, scholarship, academic related affairs, including those impacting the quality of learning at Laurier, beginning from admissions to graduation. And depending on the content and scope of the solution, the Senate works in tandem with the board. So I definitely think that we could introduce more opportunities for students to sit in on Senate meetings, general meetings, to market the Senate more so that they can understand and participate in kind of curating their own academics and their curricula to further their education and careers.
Okay, perfect, thank you. On to Al.
So my understanding of the Senate is that, as Alicia said, it is part of one of two of the governing bodies here at Laurier that makes decisions about the education here. And I think a really big thing that could be incorporated to have the students' opinion to be incorporated more into the policies would be really utilizing the exit quizzes that everyone is being sent to at the end of their courses to kind of see what type of improvements the professors and the faculties can make. Because I know I have some friends in business who say that some of their courses are not really teaching them what they want, such as in marketing. They want to be learning these things, and those types of suggestions can really help the students learn the type of content that they really want to learn and benefit from when they graduate.
Okay, perfect. On to Emily.
So as it's already been said, that my understanding of the Senate is that it works together and can provide recommendations to the board about like academic planning and any sort of academic processes like within the university. I guess my biggest recommendations for how it could be improved is talking to academic advisors in each faculty about what are the most common questions and comments and complaints that they're getting, and also perhaps adding more spring, intersession, and summer course offerings so that if a student is overwhelmed during the school year or for whatever reason they have to retake a class, that they're still on track. Also polling with students and talking to the dean of students, and then even going over petitions to see perhaps some of the other reasons why students are maybe overwhelmed or not doing well in some of their courses.
Thank you very much.
Perfect. On to Michaela.
Yeah, so I see the Senate as a group of people that make better moves for the university and the students and having their well-being in mind. This can include academic issues, issues of faculty, and long-term
kind of maintenance for the school. And in terms of how we can make it better, I think as my other candidates have said, like student engagement is really big. The students make up the university, so having an opinion on issues is really important. And also having honest discussions about the problems that come up. If it's something that may not want to be discussed but has to, I think that's important. And having the space to do that is the key to those kind of conversations. But in the end, communication and betterment of the university is supposed to be center.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions from directors? Okay, then I'll take this opportunity to ask one. Being a student and a senator is a significant workload, and the biggest part as a student senator myself is to actually show up and speak. So how will you be able, how will you as a candidate be able to prioritize both your academics, but your student engagement at the same time to be able to advocate for students in an institution where you're one out of 80 voices and a lot of senior executives in the university? So I will start off. I'll start off by actually doing the opposite. So we'll start off with Michaela.
I would read it, sorry. So in terms of balance, I think it's important to learn how to balance in general as students. I also have a part-time job and I'm part of the Health Students Association. So having those on my schedule is something that I've been able to do well so far. And I think joining the Senate would just be another challenging task, or something I'd be up for. I'm a big organizer, so planning out everything is something I like to do. So having scheduled time for the Senate and making sure my thoughts and ideas are put into the group ahead of time, just so that I can prep in that sense, would take the load kind of off the stress, I guess, of balancing all these things. But just making sure I have that space to do that is probably how I balance.
Okay, perfect. We will now move to Emily.
Oh, well, with the clubs that I'm in right now in my Accessible Learning Center job, I'm busy, but I'm not overstretched. So I'm confident that I would be able to come to the roughly, I believe it's 8 meetings a year. I'm confident that I would be able to attend and be prepared and meet all responsibilities.
Okay, perfect. On to Elle.
So throughout my time here at Laurier, I've always been able to balance my ISSA club with my academics. And I find that if I were to be selected as the student senator, through being the president of the ISSA, I would be able to gauge with the student body for my own program, as well as also connecting with other clubs when trying to connect with them, and also just keeping up with student unions policies and things like that. So I feel like I would have enough time to do both senator and my own club, as I would be doing research for both as the president and being engaged. As Emily said, there's also 8 meetings, so I find that I would have the time for that. And I think I'm a very organized person, so I would definitely be able to make my time managed.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We will now move on to Alicia.
Okay, so one way I'll be able to balance this is by actually taking advantage of Laurier's various services, both within academic advising and the study programs that we have to assist me in balancing my academics. I also am the Vice President of Marketing for FLAS, and I'm also the web manager and one of the reporters for the Sputnik, and that has enabled me to connect more easily with the general population within the university, so that way I'll be able to bring their concerns more easily to the board while managing my academics. It has never been an issue for me before, and like my previous candidates have said, it's just 8 meetings, which is a fairly low bar for us to meet. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. On to Brian.
Yeah, so I have been a active member of the Laurier community since my first year. I've been a part of many clubs, now holding many leadership positions within those clubs. Most of these clubs require a great deal of planning for large-scale events and coordination within faculties and with students' union. In the past, this has never been an issue with me being able to maintain my grades. Last year, I was an executive member of Laurier Musical Theater, of which every week there would be a well over an hour-long meeting to discuss all upcoming plans and events that would be occurring, of which I was able to fulfill all of my duties as director of events and attend every meeting that occurred weekly. So I do not see the meetings for me being an issue to attendance, as well as being able to fulfill my outside duties as senator.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I'll answer a question.
We have a question. We have one last question before we move into closing statements of 45 seconds.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what is the kind of like a main problem that you kind of want to solve or you have seen on campus that you would like to fix?
Okay, we will start in regular alphabetical order. Brian, you have the floor.
Thank you. I think one thing that I've kind of seen on campus feeds back to kind of the communication issue that exists within the larger governing bodies and within Laurier. Many students feel disillusioned within kind of the structure of Laurier. They don't necessarily know what their rights are. They don't necessarily know who they can talk to, who they can access. They don't have those resources or even those language or where to find those resources. I think finding a way to more accurately and efficiently dispense this information to students can provide a greater building blocks for all students to become involved and feel more a part of Laurier as a whole.
Okay, perfect. On to Alicia.
Thank you. One of the main things that I have noticed, especially being on the Brantford campus, would be our lack of co-op and internship opportunities. They're mainly outside opportunities that we've found. And so being a senator and being, managing the academic affairs of the university, I think one of the ways that we can do this is by helping students to bolster their resume with practical in-field experiences that can be attached to our actual curricula, so that we will be able to not only boost our resumes and our CVs using our schoolwork, but also with outside experiences, and that the transition into actual workplace and modern society would be much more, easier. It would be much more, yes, it will be easier. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. On to Al.
A big issue at Laurier that I've seen is, I wouldn't say the lack of diversity, equity, inclusion, but I would definitely see that there should be definitely more of that type of content available to the students. So I would definitely say that maybe with my international education background, as someone who has studied how to incorporate that into education, you could maybe incorporate this into the academic planning committee or the teaching and learning committee, part of the Senate. And I would love to voice my opinion into seeing how we can incorporate more of those resources and availability, just to create more of a safer environment for those who are in minority groups, as well as just spreading those resources just to educate the students in Laurier.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. On to Emily.
Well, the two things that I noticed in the community and from other students as well is that there are usually not a whole lot of like summer, spring, and intersession course offerings. In political science, there are some mandatory research classes that are only taught one semester a year. So some of my peers are not allowed to register in some of their courses because of a grade and one specific class that is not offered in the spring or summer if they need to retake it. The second thing that I noticed a lot of demand for when I was planning further education and career panels is research opportunities. Lots of grad schools, they love to see research opportunities on students' resumes, and I can't speak for all faculties, but in my particular faculty, there are not a whole lot of offerings.
Perfect. Finally, on to Michaela.
Yeah, so in terms of issues, I'll just go based off what I talked about in my opening statement about what I've seen with professors and how I feel there's a lack of diversity there. I'm a transfer student as well, so I used to be on the Waterloo campus before I was on the Brantford campus, and it was the same thing. Over there, I found that professors weren't very diverse. I had an African drumming course, and it was taught by one professor, which made me feel uneasy at times. But he had stated at the beginning that he respects the culture and that he knows, obviously he's a Black person, but he's teaching African drumming. So I'd love to see behind the scenes of the hiring process for professors and the faculty and how they go about that. Is it just that not a lot of people of diversity are applying, or is it another issue? So kind of diving deeper into that is something that would benefit, I think, diverse students like myself and my friends. But that's an issue that I feel strongly about.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. We will now lead into a very brief 1-minute final statement from each candidate before we proceed into secret ballot voting process. Oh, all good. 1 minute. Yeah, so you will have 1 minute to give your final statement. I'd like to start off with Brian. Please. Brian, please go ahead.
Thank you. I would firstly like to thank everyone for their time today. I appreciate your consideration for me as a future senator of Laurier, as well as all of the brilliant other senator applicants here today as well. I hope that my experience over the past 4 years at Laurier, building community, building connections, as well as working within the Students' Union and amongst faculty has helped demonstrate that I am dedicated to working and advancing student life and opportunities within Laurier, and that these skills can be transferred over into the senatorial position. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. On to Alicia.
Thank you. Ultimately, I just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity and to express once again that I am passionate about our university's mission and dedicated to serving our academic community in all ways. If elected to the University Senate, I will use my previous experiences and current experiences and skills to bring a collaborative spirit, a commitment to excellence and scholarship, and unwavering focus for student success and accessibility. And I thank you for this opportunity once again.
Thank you so much. On to Elle.
I'd just like to thank everyone who has been listening for your time and consideration. Also wishing luck to my fellow senator applicants. I believe that I have a strong voice and a strong opinion to speak for the student body of Laurier. And I truly believe that my skills that I have mentioned prior today, being the president of a club, as well as my other past experiences in different jobs, has cultivated a very unique set of skills that will help me thrive in this role. And I truly care about the Laurier community and want to make sure that all the different voices are heard. And I really hope that I have the opportunity to be the voice for those. So thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Evelyn?
Oh, I just wanted to say that it was nice meeting everybody today. Sorry, I can't see. Oh, there, my camera's on. Sorry. I just want to say it was nice meeting everybody today, and that my previous experiences in Model UN with public speaking, my Accessible Learning Center job, and being an executive member on the Arts Undergraduate Society has prepared me for the Senate position. And I'm so proud to be a Golden Hawk, and I just want to make the school the best it possibly can be. And I want Laurier grads to have the most transferable skills and be as competitive as possible in our ever-changing job market and increasingly competitive post-grad.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. On to Michaela.
Yeah, so thank you so much for taking the time to consider me today, and good luck to all my other candidates. This has been a really fun experience. I really got excited seeing the notification in my student email that they were for an undergraduate student. So having the space to talk to you today has been really exciting for me. I hope that whoever does get picked can make a change for students and the school in general, because Laurier is a great place and we really like being a student here.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I would like to send a note of appreciation to all of the candidates who came out today for the role of senator. We will now proceed into secret ballot voting. All directors have been sent a Microsoft form link to vote in their My Laurier or their WLU. Please use your WLU email accounts to vote. We will now just, I guess, should we turn off the cameras and mute the recording?
Okay,
Okay,
it's
so
also in my learning space if people are having email issues.
yeah, so if any directors are having email issues, please access the form through My Learning Space. No, you secret ballot, man.
I really kind of want the Jeopardy theme song.
Oh.
What's that? No.
Nobody wants the water, but
But I was like a. Community water.
it was a community water. Hmm.
It's a popular.
Oh, we've been here for like 6 hours, Marvel.
Sugared up.
We are still waiting on 3 directors to cast their ballots.
Just 2 now.
Oh, 2, we are waiting on 2 directors to cast their ballot on the Microsoft forms. Like. It'll go into a runoff, and then. We have all of the.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, the results are in. I would like to congratulate Alicia Felician for being elected to the role of senator. I would like to thank all of the other candidates for running. I sincerely appreciate your outgoingness to come and stand for an election. Please do know that just because you did not win this election this time, there may be other elections available throughout, whether it be for the board or future Senate openings as well. So just because you didn't get it this time doesn't mean you won't get it next time. Please apply again if you do. Alicia, somebody from our office, somebody from the student union will be in contact with you tomorrow to connect you with the Laurier Secretariat's office in order for you to get enrolled. Thank you so much. This now concludes our Senate application election. I'd like to again thank all of the candidates that came out today. I greatly appreciate it. We'll now move back to GP2A direct inspection committee elections. If I could have any nominations for this committee. Vice Chair?
I would nominate myself.
And you stand?
And I will stand.
Perfect. Oh, if you would like to now leave the meeting, feel free to do that at your own time. If you would like to stay, you're more than welcome to do that. Any other Any other nominations from directors? This is for GP2A, which is the governance style policies. Second, so this is the second direct inspection committee, where the committee will meet once before the next board meeting and then submit a report on this name itself. Okay, and do you stand?
I will stand.
Okay, perfect. Director Baldinelli, we have one last. Okay, Director Corey.
Sorry, is this EL or GP? We couldn't hear
So
you.
this is for GP2A. EL2A was already decided, voted on.
I will nominate myself and stand.
Will you stand?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I didn't hear the last part.
It'd just be funny if he nominated himself and it didn't.
I've got to do that just to get a reaction.
Okay, perfect. Are there any other nominations for this committee? I must note that it is expected that directors stand for one direct inspection committee per term in order to be compliant with GP2H. So keep that in mind as elections come forward in the future. Any other nominations for GP2A? Okay, perfect. As I see none, we will now move into voting. Any objections? Any abstentions? All those in favor? The motion passes 0-0. Wait, are we missing a vote on the Brantford side?
No, I abstained.
Okay, so the motion passes 0-9. Thank you so much. We will now move into the board vacancy discussion. We, as of last meeting, we had decided how we will be filling the next, the two missing roles, or the two missing directors on the board. We're currently 10 out of 12. So we will now be asking if, or we will now be determining how we will conduct the election process. So based on the recommendations and the discussions that we've had previously as a board, I recommend that the board commence marketing of the two board of directors positions tomorrow, or effective as soon as operationally feasible, to then end at the end of the summer, with the elections occurring in the first board meeting of September. Does anybody else have any questions or discussions on this matter?
I have a question or something.
Go ahead.
to put out. If specifically, we're gonna be talking about specifically the Instagram account, the ownership of the meeting, and talk with like operations, marketing, individuals. How would doing marketing campaign for that play into that conversation? Should we hold off until that meeting?
So the way that we could do it is we could pass a motion that it could be discussed with operations, and then we would then roll it out with prior board approval. So with, consent of operations and the direction in which they decide to take, they could start the marketing campaign without further board approval, because we already approved that they will conduct some a reasonable interpretation of our direction. Is that correct?
Yeah, basically, the most important thing we need is a date for the nomination packages to open, and then a specific date for them to close in September. It doesn't need to be tied to a board meeting. It would likely be in advance of a board meeting. So if you picked a date for the nomination period to close in September, we could collect the nomination packages, and then they would be presented at the next board meeting after that date, which we won't know probably until August, but if you open the nominations on this date and then we'll close them on this September date, then we can start the marketing and communications plan for that position like we would for other laureate ones.
Okay, perfect. I personally would recommend that our closing date be no later than Friday the 8th, so that we would have at least 1 week of the fall semester, but this would then give us about a week for the next board meeting, which would be tentatively scheduled for the third week of September. So that would be the.
I might suggest pushing it to the Sunday. So like we usually close our job stuff to the Sunday, and then that way we can do a last minute push, because the Friday of orientation week, a lot of people will have bandwidth going elsewhere.
Right.
So it just gives them opportunity to kind of decompress and go, oh yeah, I should do that thing.
So I totally agree with the suggestion. I believe that maybe if we pushed it to Sunday, the 10th of September, the application would close then. I believe that maybe 1 week from today is reasonable for operations and our governance team and our ownership linkage committee to meet with operations. Is that reasonable, do you think?
I mean, we can open it before that meeting. We don't need to have.
Okay, so I think that if we open the board packages tomorrow, that would be reasonable. For, you know, potential candidates to already start working on their projects. I believe that probably the most interested candidates will already be in touch with our Instagram accounts, and as soon as they see it open, like the basic flyer open, they'll submit their candidacy right away.
Can we maybe do by Friday, the 23rd at the latest?
Yes.
That way we can just make sure that we've got an opening within our marketing schedule.
Absolutely. So we could do it as Friday, the 23rd at the latest, earlier if operational feasible.
Perfect.
Is that reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any okay, Director Corey?
Sorry, we're just a little confused over here. We're having a bit of trouble hearing you a bit. But it opens 23rd or as soon as operationally feasible, whichever is first, and closes Sunday, the 10th of September.
Correct.
Is that right? Okay.
Which would then give us the time to be able to communicate with the candidates that at X date, when the board is going to be meeting, please come prepared with a 3-minute speech, et cetera, so that we can hold the board election to the board of directors. That would be the way that it would work. Does that satisfy your question?
Yeah.
Perfect. Any other discussion on the matter? Perfect. Can I have a motion on the table that the board of directors instructs operations to open the board nomination packages no later than April the 23rd, August 23rd, 2023, and close it no later than September, or close it on September 10th, 2023, on the table. Okay, Director Hamilton motions, second from who? Director Spitzeri, thank you for your motions. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. Is that a hand I'm seeing? Okay, Director Corey? Or Director Ellis?
Just a note, I think that we may need a little bit more time in September. We may want to close it a little bit later. I don't know how many students will be really looking at this stuff during the summer. And we may need a little bit, just more time at the beginning of September to get students more, maybe send out some email communications. I don't know how many students will be looking at this type of stuff during the summer. And I don't know how many applicants we would be having. So maybe it's something to look at.
That's a fair question, but I must note that I believe as Chief Governance Officer it is imperative to fill the role as soon as feasibly possible. It doesn't have to be perfect. We just need to get the best qualified candidates that we can to fit the role. It is important to note that during the fall and the winter semester, we will be taking potentially taking some very substantive policy decisions, and that having the director on as soon as possible will enable for better decisions and discussions to happen then. So if you would like to amend the motion to push it a week further, I would be more than happy to entertain that, but you know, that's up to you.
Yeah, I would like to amend it to push the closing date to September 17th.
Okay, perfect. Do we have a seconder on the motion? Dr. Spitzeri. Okay, any discussion on the amendment? Perfect. As I see none, we will now move into voting. Any objection? Any abstention? All those in favor? The vote passes 0 to 9. Thank you so much. Do we have to give permission for a director to leave temporarily?
But you still have to vote on the main motion.
Oh, yeah, and now we have to make a vote on the main motion.
And then after that, we're heading in camera, so there would be an opportunity.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. So now we will move on to voting on the main motion. So we already, so we will now, is there any discussion on the motion as amended? Perfect. We will now go into voting. Any objections? Any abstentions? All those in favor? The motion carries 0 to 9. Thank you so much. We will now proceed into in-camera session. Do we have the motion for that?
Yes.
Okay, can I get a motion to move the board of directors into our in-camera session?
With the governance.
With the governance coordinator, the executive director, and the director of policy research and advocacy as ex officio members. Okay, perfect. Director Baldinelli, seconded by Director Ellis. We will now move into discussion. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, perfect. As I see none, we will now move into voting. Any objection? Any abstention? All those in favor? Motion carries 0 to 9. I'd like to make one final announcement to the people sitting in the gallery. Thank you for attending our board of directors meeting today. You've made it to 9:30. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you here. We look forward to hopefully seeing you in another board of directors meeting in the future. Have a good night.